Now, from the Target 12 investigators, the exit interview. Providence Mayor Jorge Elorza is leaving office in a couple of weeks after 8 years leading the capital city.
His tenure marked by a pandemic, ongoing pension struggles, and a crisis in education.
Do you think you'll send your son to Providence Public Schools?
Absolutely not.
12 investigator Steph Machado covers City Hall and sat down with the outgoing mayor. She joins us now with the exit interview.
Mayor Elorza points to improved finances, a decrease in crime, and a more ethical City Hall over his past 8 years in office. But perhaps nothing loomed larger over his second term than the state takeover of the Providence Public Schools.
The reality is that the house is on fire on education.
Mayor Elorza ceded control of the Providence Public Schools to the state in 2019. Now he's critical of the job they've done, especially when it comes to changing the Providence Teachers Union contract. Do you regret supporting the takeover or even pushing for the takeover now that you've seen how the first few years are going?
No, and I'll tell you why. The alternative is not much better. Right? Our schools have been failing our kids for 40 years. And doing nothing is simply not an option. Yes, I was and remain really critical and really disappointed that when the new governor came in, he made all the concessions to the unions. It really is abandoning our kids, something that is just unforgivable.
Do you think you'll send your son to Providence Public Schools?
Absolutely not. And it hurts me to say that. You know, I was one of these, like, you know, never die, like absolutely public schools. And my wife and I have had this conversation. It's difficult for both of us to have reached that conclusion. The chances that they're going to have a bad teacher one of those years is very, very high. And you know, you just can't afford your child losing a full year.
How do you feel leaving office with that being the situation?
Yeah, you know, it absolutely feels like unfinished business. When I became mayor, you know, more than anything else, what I wanted to do was turn around our public schools. What I came to realize is that there is no mayor, there is no superintendent, there is no principal that can turn around our schools. It's not about individuals. You can't bring in Superman or Superwoman to turn around schools.
The mayor, a Harvard Law graduate, says he's still working on his next act and for now plans to teach law school part-time. But don't expect to see him in a courtroom anytime soon.
Well, I'm trying to avoid real work for a little while. So I don't see myself practicing law.
Do you see yourself ever running for office again?
That's not in the plans. You know, you never know what the future holds. I may run for something, maybe 4 years, maybe 8 years, maybe never. You know, I have a 4-year-old son. I think my time is best spent and most needed, you know, caring for my family.
Our interview was taped before the state announced they would close 2 Providence public schools this coming spring. Elorza suggested the vacant school buildings could be an opportunity for charter schools to open. Coming up at 6 o'clock, more of my conversation with Mayor Elorza.
I've seen the headlines and sort of it's like juicy and it's kind of clickbait.
How his signature reparations proposal turned out and his advice for incoming Mayor Brett Smiley. I'm Steph Machado, 12 News.
Thank you, Steph. And you can watch the extended exit interview with Mayor Jorge Elorza right now on Pulse of Providence on WPRI.com, or you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. Now to our exit interview with Providence Mayor Jorge Elorza. The Democratic mayor is preparing to leave office after 8 years after hitting the 2-term limit. At 5, we brought you the mayor's reflections on an issue that dominated his second term, the state takeover of the Providence schools.
New at 6, Target 12 investigator Steph Machado is here with what the mayor has to say about some of his signature proposals.
One of the looming issues Elorza inherited that the city still faces as he leaves office is the more than $1 billion pension problem.
I've run the city with honesty and integrity.
Mayor Elorza says one of his top achievements is professionalizing City Hall.
You know, you go from maybe 30 or 40 years ago, not just here in Providence, but frankly, almost every city. The whole point of politics was to run a patronage system.
There is unfinished business. The pension fund remains in critical status, a problem he inherited but is not solved. Is this a failure of your administration?
I think there's no one out there who will say that, you know, we weren't not only, you know, financially and fiscally responsible, but you know, we've turned the city's finances around.
In his final year, Elorza convinced the General Assembly and city voters to approve a $515 million pension obligation bond to deposit into the fund. But interest rates rose too high to borrow the money before he leaves office.
And I think that if anyone was taking odds or making bets, no one would have expected that pension bond process to pass. The next mayor and the next administration, they can take this step without having to go through all the hurdles and all the steps that we went through. So we've cleared the process for them.
One of Elorza's more ambitious proposals was a city reparations program meant to right the wrongs done to Black and Indigenous residents. A $10 million program passed this year using COVID relief funds, but the program is race neutral, prompting some national headlines that white people in Providence will get reparations. What is your reaction to some of the criticism you've gotten lately for that?
I think that going into the work, everyone wanted the investments to be made in a race-based way, not in a race-neutral way, but in a race-based way. But I think that what convinced the committee to do otherwise was that if we did it in a race-based way, it was virtually certain that we would find ourselves in court. So, I mean, I've seen the headlines and sort of it's like juicy and it's kind of clickbait. But you know, when you see how the investments are ultimately made, I think that's what matters more than anything else.
Elorza plans to attend Mayor-elect Brett Smiley's inauguration on January 2nd before leaving office. What advice do you have for him as he prepares to take over this office?
An approach that I've taken that has served me well is understanding that you can do a perfect job and you're still going to get criticized. So if you're going to get criticized anyways, might as well do what's right.
Elorza plans to teach law part-time at Roger Williams University School of Law after leaving office, but says he's still exploring other potential job opportunities. He says running for office again is not part of his plans, but didn't rule it out. I'm Steph Machado, 12 News.
Steph, thank you. In the full exit interview on WPRI.com right now, she questions the mayor about the Providence Public Schools, including whether he regrets giving away control to the state and whether he'll send his young son to the city schools.